Okay, this is really more of a selfish video, I admit, but I do think it's somewhat interesting to kind of keep track of this stuff, and maybe you guys find it interesting and hopefully motivating for the long-term trajectory of your careers. About every year, I sort of release a video showing my total number of cue sheets that I have to my name after many years. And so now I definitely crossed 10,000 this year. That was a huge milestone for me. So I'm very proud of that, very excited. And also, something that just dawned on me literally this year is that I don't have just 10,200 or so placements. That's the number of cue sheets that one of my tracks has shown up in. In a lot of the TV shows I get placed in, I have multiple tracks that get placed, and sometimes one track is getting placed multiple times. So if you actually counted up and total up the unique instances of each individual placement I got, I'm way, way, way beyond 10,000. I actually don't even know what that number is. Maybe I could do a sort of mass export of these cue sheets to try to figure that specific number out. It's not that important, but I do feel very, very happy and accomplished for the fact that I was able to cross 10,000 individual show cue sheets. So it's really, really great to see that. So let me show you guys the update on my sort of overall chart. So I've been kind of keeping you guys updated on this yearly for how my career has been going. And if you go all the way back to 2008, when I first got started right here, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, I wasn't doing so great. Started off just like with everybody else in this industry. I had a big fat zero. I would log into my old ASCAP account, show nothing. And it was like that for a year and a half, probably 2 years, somewhere around there. And then at some point, it was like 2010, I think I started seeing a first couple inklings of, hey, a couple of placements, a couple of things have been coming in. And it started to trickle in basically after a couple of years of me getting started. And so as you can see, I just was grinding. I just kept on making new tracks, new albums. Again, one thing I wish I had way back here when I was at my beginning stages, and even all the way up to here, I wish I spent a lot more time paying attention to the data in the marketplace of which tracks are getting placed, what styles of music get placed the most. And, I'm primarily a rock, EDM, kind of a pop rock producer. And most of the time I was just making music that I wanted to make. And some of those tracks got placed, a lot of it didn't. And had I just spent a little bit of time, again, we didn't have I don't think we had very helpful, resourceful tools back then. All you could do is turn on your TV and hopefully catch some tracks that are in your style to kind of understand what's happening. But now that you guys have access to Sync Match, which is linked below if you guys want to check out what's available there for you, I think if I had had access to an app like Sync Match, I can at least just spend a little bit of time listening and understanding, studying what the marketplace is placing the most and how my tracks compare to theirs and where my tracks are a little bit different. Which moods should I be focusing on? What tempos should I be going towards? What instruments should I be doing? If I'm including vocals in my tracks, what themes and what kind of approaches to putting vocals in my style of music is flying off the shelf the most? Had I just done a little bit of that and had some tool like Sync Match to be able to do that, I think this curve would have been much steeper and would have risen much faster, and it would have been probably at a much higher rate here all these years later. Again, this is not me complaining. This is not me saying boo-hoo, woe is me. I did the best that I could with the tools that I had and with the access to the limited information that I had at the time. But all of you guys that are in the beginning of your career, first couple of years in, you don't have to do what I did. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to be in the dark like I was. And I do have to constantly just let you guys know and remind you that Sync Match is an extremely powerful tool for getting your head out of the dark and getting your head into the game of finding out what's getting placed. So anyways, I shared with you guys a video last year when I showed you this like massive bump up right here. It was between 2023 to 2024. And of course, my greedy side was like, I'm reaching an exponential curve. And for those of you that haven't followed me that closely, around the pandemic start, 2020, I really took my foot off the gas. Like I really stopped composing music very, very consistently. I started to focus a lot more on my educational products and Sync Academy and this YouTube channel and a lot of things that I've been doing behind the scenes, eventually an app and a variety of other things that I've tried, in-person events, like a lot of cool stuff, just because I felt like that was where I was providing the most amount of value, and I was really loving the challenge of it because you do sync licensing for 10, 15 years as I had been doing at that point. sometimes your brain craves some new challenges, and that's exactly what happened to me. So anyways, I really hadn't been adding a lot to my catalog from this point on, but as you can see, that didn't really make much of a difference, and it didn't matter for my actual overall trajectory of the placements that I received. So one thing that I can say, and that I noticed this for a lot of producers that are able to do this full time, is their careers look a lot like this as well, where it's slow, it's a grind. You can see a little bit of a rise, but it's not taking off as fast as you want. And there's just this like faith and belief in yourself, and then you maybe see a little bit more of like, okay, things are starting to feel a little bit more consistent. I can kind of feel, and I remember it was probably around this area here, 20, maybe a little earlier, 2013, 14, 15. That's when my confidence, I think, started to get properly built of like, okay, there's an engine here. There's actually something I can rely upon. The royalties are growing, the placements are growing, my relationships are getting stronger. I'm getting more briefs and more opportunities that are coming into me. And so I started to feel like, okay, I really do have a future. And you think, would it take that long to get that feeling? For me, it did. And for many of you, maybe it will take that long as well. Hopefully not. But it's just a slow moving and growing snowball. And it's just like when you're putting a snowball together, it's just small and small and small to the point where it has its own momentum. Like your career will hopefully eventually get its own momentum, and the strength of your music and your professionalism and your relationships start to kind of like compound. And then you start to see some great, amazing opportunities kind of come into you, and it'll seem like it's just raining. Like there's just opportunities coming at you all over the place. And then hopefully you start to see your placements rise. But the reason why these numbers started to really kick up, basically, even after most of my work had been done, this is really primarily passive income right here. Don't get me wrong, I still did some work in the last couple of years. It wasn't like I never composed music. In fact, it was in the last couple of years that I got my first theme placement on Major League Baseball. I've actually gotten 2 themes on the network. So I've been working, and those are not easy to get. Those are very, very intense. But the reason why I believe this sort of much steeper curve came into my career is because of the thousands of hours I put in all the way back here. Okay, so that's why this stuff is possible. This stuff does not happen because you got excited about sync and you threw your music out to one library and you're expecting this miracle of exponential growth to happen. It is basically like chipping away at a massive, massive boulder. I remember Todd Andrew, one of our pros on the Pro Feedback platform, had this great analogy that he had broken through to this like 6-figure, huge royalties, theme placements, doing great. This is after 10, 15 years in the business, didn't come overnight. And, his dad had told him like, well, all these years you've been just with a little chisel and a massive boulder, chipping, a little bit, hit every single day. And finally one day you hit something and it cracked the whole boulder all the way through. And then you saw all that progress happen very, very quickly. So was it that last hit that unlocked all that progress, or was it the thousands, tens of thousands of hits and little, pecks at it that you've been doing all these years that eventually created enough momentum that final one, which was like a theme placement, a couple of theme placements, broke open his earning potential and really kind of skyrocketed his abilities in this business. So it's a great analogy because I think that's exactly what happened in my career as well. It's just I was just chipping away at it here, chipping. A lot of it too isolated, not paying attention to the market as much as I should have, but still showing up, still getting disappointing royalty checks and rejections and pitching for custom gigs, not getting them, but still believing that this could be profitable and helpful for me. And then after all those years, it popped up. Now here's the one part, a little bit of a downer for me. But again, not complaining, is I was hoping that as I went to my next video this year to show the progress, that this curve would just continue on this very, very steep curve and maybe even get steeper and just kind of go whoop, straight up. But as you can see, it has not done that. So it's definitely seeming to flatten out a little bit. So who knows? We'll see what happens next year. My guess would be that at some point, if you're not consistently putting new music into the system, you probably won't see it rise exponentially. That's probably a silly thought that I had. So it'll probably start to level out, and I'll probably see my numbers sort of stabilize at some point, and that'll be kind of where it maybe my career kind of tops out, unless I'm going to go back into making music. And hey, you never know, maybe I will. But for right now, it's just really cool to keep track of this stuff. And if you guys aren't keeping track of your own placements, I'm just using Google Sheets and just sort of I have 2 columns that basically just show the year and the cue sheets that I have. It's kind of cool to kind of keep track of where you're at, where you're going, and just to be able to visually see like your progress in this business. So I think this is just something that just helps us keep some perspective. And I hope you guys see this and go, maybe you believe you've got a future like this as well in this industry. So anyways, that's the point of this. I know it's a little bit self-indulgent, but I do want to keep you guys updated on my progress as a part of this business.